tribe has noticed a decline in the number of clams on their beaches.
We have faculty doing research. We have students doing research.
I am currently doing a research project surveying West Nile virus.
I am investigating methylmercury levels in game fish within Lake Sakakawea.
I would like to get them access to that information because people just don't know.
The research studies, the STEM opportunities provided at our tribal colleges really enlightens and expands the student experience.
People can look up our information and they can see what we have found out and they can build off of it.
It is good for the scientific community and it's also good for the tribal communities.
I believe we're much more sophisticated than people have any inkling. In some respects, it's a best-kept secret.
The National Science Foundation's Tribal Colleges and Universities program, or TCUP, supports advancement in STEM education, research, and outreach to American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian undergraduate students. TCUP is an integral part of NSF's mission to support and fund diversity within STEM education and research. The idea for tribal colleges dates back at least to the early 20th century, but in the late 1960s and early 1970s, the idea became reality.
We had 5 or 6 people who had college degrees. We felt we could do better. Navajo Community College had started. We heard about it. We said, we want that too.
None of the early tribal colleges were STEM. Very few of the tribal colleges had STEM faculty, and none probably had Indian faculty with a background in STEM.
Our traditional science was brought in first. That was followed by Western science.
As we were nurturing and building our tribal colleges, we were also becoming knowledgeable of the importance of STEM to the future of our tribe. That's where the good jobs are.
The implementation of NSF's rural systemic initiatives in the 1990s, followed by TCUP in the early 2000s, changed the paradigm. Now, tribal colleges and universities, or TCUs, could offer 2- and 4-year STEM degrees to their students.
That's when we began to believe that we could do this, that we could become engineers, that we could major in STEM fields, that we could bring these careers to the reservations, and we could fill vacancies on our reservations and bring economic development.
TCU STEM education and research programs began primarily as a way to boost academic achievement and career opportunities for tribal members. But these programs have been leading to many unpredicted benefits, including improvements in environmental resource monitoring, public health outreach, advancements in technology, and a STEM-enhanced workforce capable of impacting and determining governmental policy.
NSF is helping us to build our infrastructure, to build our faculty, to raise the level of our people academically, educationally, professionally, economically.
We can create private business, private enterprise, which will end up employing people, sustainable employment with good salaries. All these areas can happen through education and through good research that's going to promote good decisions for the long term.
Salish Sea Research Center was funded through a National Science Foundation award. I think that we're being recognized for our work within tribal communities and being known for a research center that does really good marine-focused research. At Northwest Indian College, we're currently engaged in a large research project to look at manila clams on the Lummi Reservation. The tribe has noticed a decline in the number of clams on their beaches. Manila clams are the primary commercial hard clam that people harvest, and they're routinely harvested for ceremonial and subsistence purposes.
My part of the study is figuring out the density of the clams that are already here. Oh man, there's a lot of clams in here. I am Lummi and Yupik, and I recently graduated from the Northwest Indian College Bachelor's of Science Native Environmental Science program. This current research about the Manila clam growth data will be used by the Lummi Nation's shellfish hatchery to determine whether or not they are overplanting or underplanting. They'll have solid information to decide whether or not what they're doing is effective.
All of our students are engaged in research through their capstone projects, and they're all engaged in research through internship.
I did my bachelor's degree capstone thesis on subsistence clams. I measured them for domoic acid, which is a marine biotoxin that is found in clams sometimes. It causes permanent short-term memory loss, and it's very, very serious. What I discovered was that people who eat clams and ignore shellfish harvest closures, they just don't know.
The research here would not be possible without NSF funding, certainly not at this scale where we could continue to look at multiple sites and also take on some of the other questions we have surrounding these plants and their life history. We're looking at effects of climate change and how different habitats might change when the berries ripen, when the flowers come on. We might be able to maintain the health of some patches or improve or increase where some of the huckleberry patches are available.
I am Little Shell Chippewa, and I'm also a descendant of the Blackfeet tribe. I am doing a research project focusing on grizzly bears and humans and the traditional harvesting of huckleberries.
I'm a member of the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe. I'm checking out the canopy cover and seeing how it affects the huckleberry plants. I'm seeing a big difference now where things are more open, the berries are riper.
I'm an environmental biology major, watershed management and soil science minor. I wanted to have firsthand experience on traditional ecological knowledge and culturally relevant and culturally sensitive research. So I'm looking for native bee pollinators along transects surrounding huckleberry plots.
Indigenous research allows the community to make the decisions, to choose the research questions, to choose the types of methodologies that will be used and the types of evidence that would count in a tribal community, and then to use the results to make important changes to the community.
Our students typically like to do research in environmental science areas, and that also includes mathematics. They seek advice from their grandmothers, grandfathers on the history of the plants or the water, the animals that were around this area.
So many of the students don't think of themselves as scientists until they experience research in this framework where they're able to honor and respect traditional knowledge and also apply Western technologies to that.
Not only is it important for the students, but it also reinforces that relationship between the tribes and the college. It's no mistake that we're working with clam gardens, that we're working with water pollution, that we're looking at ethnobotany and camas gardens and agroforestry.
A lot of students seem really starved for their culture, for cultural knowledge. And for us to use that as the basis for research, it meets the mission of the college, and it's a benefit to the community. We're finding that because of some of these instructional strategies that we're using, the students are more likely to stay in STEM rather than to move on to a different degree.
Our NSF research project is a look at streams in the Little Rocky Mountains that have been impacted by the gold mine. We'll use this as our reference site because this site has little impacts or pollution from man, and we'll compare it to a mine impacted site further upstream and look at the difference.
I'm from the Pine Ridge Reservation. We go to these streams and set up downstream, and we start to disturb the riverbed or the stream bed to dislodge the macroinvertebrates. We categorize them. We group them together, put them in their orders and families.
So I did the same type of work 20 years ago when I was a student at Ani Nakota College, and I actually used basically the same sites that we're using today. I can tell just by looking at the streams, compared to 20 years ago, the effects of the acid mine drainage has moved further downstream.
Our ranchers use it to water their cattle, and farmers use it to water their crops. So if the water is not good, obviously we're going to have failed crops and failed cattle.
I am investigating methylmercury levels inside of game fish in Lake Sakakawea here on the Fort Berthold Reservation. Our results are showing numbers that exceed the FDA guidelines significantly. The walleye fish has about 54 nanograms per gram inside their meat, and our numbers show very much higher than that. We're getting numbers 200, 300, 600, even on my poster back there, there's a walleye fish with 800 nanograms per gram. I hope that this paves the way for more students, more tribal agencies such as the Environmental Division or the Game and Fish, for them to be more involved and to be more aware of what can happen if you do get too much methylmercury in your system.
The greatest measurement of the success of TCUP and the growth of STEM at tribal colleges comes from the students.
We see students presenting at conferences, attending symposium, presenting their research projects. I really am awed by what I see with the students. Students really grow and become confident and really become their own person as they go through the process of research.
We have students that are interested in going home and working for their own tribes. We have students that would like to work for other government agencies or nonprofit institutions. Some of our students want to continue with graduate school and continue in the research fields.
I do want to go back and get my master's degree. I believe that getting a higher education is very important. I could do more than just what I'm doing now. It could help my children and their children in the future.
I'm already applying for my master's degree in resource management and hope to be able to be employed by the tribe.
After I achieve my bachelor's in environmental science, I would like to pursue into graduate school and achieve my master's degree in wildlife biology.
After I receive my Bachelor of Environmental Science, I'd like to go on to a master's program.
When I first started ANC, I wanted to become a nurse, but after my first summer internship, I fell in love with the lab techniques and pipetting.
We've been collecting mosquitoes and analyzing them for the West Nile virus to see if they're positive for West Nile.
It's called the Culex tarsalis.
Culex tarsalis.
Culex tarsalis. It has a round abdomen, stripes on its legs.
Our students happened to trap the first batch of mosquitoes in Montana that tested positive for West Nile virus.
We set up traps overnight. We pick them up in the morning. We sort them. We extract the RNA from the mosquitoes, and then we do a PCR scan, and we'll see if the virus is in the mosquitoes. If we find the West Nile virus, we'll be able to inform people to take more precaution. The research results will help my community.
The North Dakota Air Quality Report states that our air is clean and that our air is safe. My hypothesis is based on the fact that there's no sampling done here. And my hypothesis was that the levels I would discover would be higher than what is acceptable by the EPA standards. I utilize a tactical air sampler with quartz filters, and I look at the particles on them and try and decide if they're anthropogenic or if they're naturally occurring. The sizes that we're talking about are really, really small, but they're actually dangerous to our body because these particles cannot be filtered out. I've found phosphorus, I've found calcium, I have found pieces of aluminum, I have found pieces of, it looks like shards of metal that test positive for titanium, iron. In a nutshell, what I found is dirt and metal in our air. Data integrity is so important to me that it is a must that I continue with my education. It all plays a part in my message, that the air is not always healthy out there here on the reservation. And the only way people are going to believe me is if I have the degree and I have the education, which is what I'm working on day by day.
The National Science Foundation has been the most important agency throughout the federal government in providing the targeted capacity building money to allow us to build our STEM programs.
What is it we need to do to address endemic poverty? To address suicides, to address the diabetes in our people, with our communities. It has to be through problem-based, science-based research.
Where this country's major natural resources are located: coal, oil, forest, water, agriculture. These are on or near Indian reservations. We're preparing tribal members, we're beginning to do good research, and at some point, we're going to be able to grow our own wealth from our own resources.
I would like for someone to come and follow in my path. I want them to be motivated. I want them to look at this woman right here who dropped out of high school, had kids, worked for 18 years as a janitor, and she was fed up with that. And I took a test that said I had these wonderful things that would fit in this field, and that's where I started. So I don't have a fairy tale rags to riches story. I have just an average, normal, everyday woman in America story.
Our graduates are all over the reservation. We've moved beyond that 5 or 6 tribal members with college degrees to probably 1,000.
We have students who are engineers. We didn't have any engineers before. We could trace those students right back to our programs funded by the National Science Foundation.
We've seen the tribal colleges have an impact, and now we're seeing a diversity in the majors that are coming back to our tribe, largely because of our promotion of research and STEM careers amongst our students.
Let's go back to the beginning of tribal colleges with no buildings, no facilities, registering students wherever, handing out textbooks from trunks of cars, having classes in abandoned buildings, having people work for no pay. So now our students are conducting more sophisticated research. Our faculty are becoming more sophisticated. We have bona fide researchers at tribal colleges. And we got a long way to go, but we can really see the results.